Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today on Create with Chris. And today I am going to be offering alternative solutions to the paint shortage that everyone is dealing with. Hello there, let me introduce myself. I am Chris Haughey. I am the owner and founder of Cupboard Distributing, CD Stencils, Pixelated Palette, Scrapbook Outlet, and Chris Haughey Designs. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about the paint shortage that everyone is experiencing. And I saw a really cute little blurb on Facebook someone posted. She said, yes, and everybody was laughing at me for being a hoarder. So now, look at me, I have everything I need. So if you have a sufficient stash, you're in good shape. That's great, but there's a lot of painters that are dealing with the shortage, and it is a result, most of it from DecoArt being on the COVID restrictions for the state of Kentucky, and unfortunately they are at a 30% production, so they're working as hard as they can, but they're very restricted as far as how much they can produce. So as a result, they sat down and did some serious thinking, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but DecoArt looked at all their paint and the sales and the figures and whatever they did, and they decided to focus on the paint that were the best sellers. And as a result, there is a limited number of paint that's being produced. And out of the 300 plus colors that we are so lucky to have at our fingertips, we now only will have 55 colors. Now, that sounds like a drastic reduction, but they're hoping after the first of the year, everything will go back to normal. And I know DecoArt is also working on ways to increase productivity. So once they are back to full staff, everybody buckle up, because we're going to have everything we ever needed at our fingertips. However, in the meantime, what do we do? Because we still want to paint. We can't go anywhere and do what we would like to do, so we're home creating. The holiday season is coming up, so that's not really a bad thing. We can start working on all those Christmas gifts and get a lot of projects finished up ahead of time. Wouldn't that be nice to be ahead of the game come Christmas time? But we'll see how that works out. Usually I have good intentions, and I'm wrapping packages hoping the varnish is dry when I wrap it in tissue so it doesn't stick. I know none of you have ever done that, so we won't go there. So what do we do now that we have all these patterns that we want to paint and we don't have the paint that we need? And there's a lot of options, and we went over a lot of them last week, but I had requests to continue on, talk about them a little bit more. So one of the things that I wanted to do, and I'll just go over here, DecoArt, if you go to DecoArt's website, they have tremendous resources. One of them that I think everyone should have is a color chart, and you can download this. If you go to the Americana Paints, they have different charts in there, but the color chart is something that is just absolutely, I think it's essential. And the colors that you print aren't exactly identical to the ones you squirt out of a bottle, but that's okay. It gives you a really good idea of where they kind of fit in. So if you come across a color you're not familiar with and you find it on the color chart and you think, oh, well, I know what raspberry looks like, so dragon fruit's just a little bit more pink. So it gives you a good reference as far as the colors. If they're not identical, at least you know if they're more blue or more green kind of thing. So very important with, and I'll show you here. This is my little tote. Let me see if I can scrunch in a little bit. I have 52 of the 55 colors in here that are available that DecoArt will continue to produce. So I really think this is a nice rainbow of colors. It gives you some of every color family. Granted, these are not the colors I would have picked, but they didn't ask me. They went on their sales, and these are their better sellers. So I decided to call these DecoArt Prime Picks. And I will tell you that I've done some different designs. Last week I showed you the gingerbread that I created using only the DecoArt Prime Picks. Those are these little gingerbread houses. They really turned out really nice, and the colors were fantastic, so I'm not whining about those colors. Let me go in just a little bit more. Sorry, I'm gonna make you dizzy here. So I thought, okay, so there's gingerbread, and then I did some Christmas foliage on a plate, and I thought, oh, I really like those colors. These are not my colors that I would normally use, but look how pretty those are. I mean, these are really, they do glow. So, okay, I'm happy with that. But over the weekend, I painted a snowman, and he turned out so adorable. Love the colors. Can you see? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. I put primary red, Indian turquoise, baby blue. These are colors I don't use, but didn't he turn out well? So I decided, you know what, this is not all bad thing. If we can create and still paint and come up with some really adorable designs, nice colors, we'll be okay. We're decorative painters, right? So we can do about anything. Don't let the color paint shortage create an issue for you, because it is not. So you have these other patterns that you want to paint, and it needs a color, and you don't know what color to use. One thing you can do is go back to this chart and find the next closest color. So you can go on here, and if it calls for cad red, you can go with, you might have one of these other colors that are right, like close by on the chart. Honestly, you're going to be the only one that will notice a difference. This will really be helpful because it does give you excellent visual of what colors are very similar that you could substitute. And it goes through the entire color wheel, so you're not going to be left out there without any help whatsoever. But if you're like me, you have certain colors that you use all the time, your comfort zone colors. So what about those? And I created a little blank grid, and I decided to mix my own colors. But I'll tell you what, my favorite tool is a color wheel. And this one is exceptional because not only does it give you great visual, go out just a little bit, but it also has a lot of information on here as to what these colors do. And then also on the back side, there's a lot of information. If you don't want to read, we all can see the pretty colors and the triangles and what goes with what, and excellent tool. I use this a lot, especially when I'm designing and I'm trying to figure out what would go with what. This is perfect. And another tool on this color wheel is it will tell you what, if you mix this red, yellow, and green with the colors, what works together and what doesn't. Now, we all know that the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. DecoArt did keep the primary red, yellow, and blue. So that in itself, we can do any color on the color wheel with these three colors. And then to give you more option is black and white. And so there's honestly nothing you can't create with these colors. Do you want to mix every single color you use? Probably not. I would suggest that the best thing to do would be to go to the next closest color, and if that is not going to work, then you can play around with mixing your own. I don't mind mixing a few. Do I want to do an entire background? Probably not, but you know, one thing that's really nice about many of the designs, and if you look at this, the background is not solid. I put some little pine trees in there and did a little bit of stamping on it, but you know, we're kind of past the plain background stage. So you can kind of slap colors in the background, blend them together, create something really interesting, and you don't really have to go back and touch up a perfect color. So you can just play around with colors in the background, let them be what they are, and then put your design in. And that takes a lot of stress out of trying to recreate that perfect color. So going back to the color wheel, like I said, you don't want to mix all of your colors, but mixing a few is really handy of your favorites. And so what I did was, I've got my little color chart here, and when I'm creating, I'm not really too tidy, but I went ahead and I created some of my favorite colors. I love watermelon slice. Well, how do I create that? So I started with primary red, and it's a little bit darker than watermelon slice, so I brightened it up with some yellow. And then it needed just a little more pop. And I thought this royal fuchsia has just enough. And the difference with fuchsia or pinks, it has a little bit of white in it. I probably could have put white in there, but you know, I've got this bottle. I don't want to over mix. I don't want to have 15 colors that I mix together to get one. I just try to keep it simple. Last week we did watermelon slice, black plum, plantation pine, plum, and antique green. Someone had asked about marigold, and I played around with it, and I tried using primary yellow, but I found out that cad yellow, I hope you can see, is a little bit brighter. And when I looked at the marigold, it is a little bit brighter. So I'm thinking if I can just add a little bit of a brown tone in there. So I went with honey brown. And those two colors, this is marigold. Let me zoom in just a little bit. This is marigold, and I put 2 cad yellows to 1 honey brown, and I got this color, which is almost identical. Now, if you're painting with marigold and you want to substitute with this, it's going to be so spot on that no one will ever be able to tell. Do I want to, where's my color chart here? I was going to go to the marigold, and according to the color chart, the other colors, antique gold's probably the next closest color that Deco Art has chosen, which is a lot different than the marigold. So to bump down to the antique gold, it's going to be a little bit dark. Unless you're painting a huge amount with the marigold and you want to mix it up, you know, a couple drops of this to one of these is just a very simple solution. Super easy to create that color, and it's not going to take much to, you know, if you run out to kind of create a little bit more. If you're doing 1 or 2 drops, that's fine. When you get into a lot more mixing, I think sometimes that's when we have to really think about, is it worth it to mix it, or do I want to just pick another color? However, 2 of the colors I like really well are Payne's Gray and Soft Black. And they did have I went with the Ultra Blue Deep because it was a little bit darker than Primary Blue. I don't know if it shows on camera, but I went with the Ultra Blue Deep and a little bit of black. I thought that would work, but it was very purple, very blue, and Payne's Gray has a little bit of purple to it, so I did put a teeny bit of primary red in it. And if you blend it out, you can see the colors against the white, how close they are. Same thing with soft black. I know it has kind of a purple tone with it, so I went with primary red and primary blue. And I put a little black in it, but it was too dark. So I thought, well, I'll try a little bit of burnt umber. And this mixing thing is just kind of a playtime, and you can come up with these combinations. I was mixing, trying to get, I forget what color I was going with, but I came up with coral shell, and I thought, gosh, that was pretty spot on. Same thing for banana cream. And this design over here, I used a little bit of thicket, and I thought, gosh, that's not in my color palette for the deco art, but forest green, slate gray, and zinc mixed together made that dusty green. And it sounds like a lot of work. Do you want to do all this work? Well, again, if you're just going to be using a little bit, and you know how long a bottle of paint will last. So if you're doing a project and you're just going to be using a little bit of paint, not a big deal to mix a few drops and create that color. If you have a bottle that you absolutely love and it's almost gone, then maybe you want to remix a bunch and put it back in that bottle, and then you'll always have that color until deco art gets back into full swing. I did talk to deco art about the availability of the color list that's going to be what they're producing, and they are working on getting that to me. I was hoping to have it by today so we could post the colors that deco art is producing and the ones that are available. Don't have it yet, but they promised me they would get it to me just as soon as they can. And as soon as I get it in my hot little hands, I'll have Lindsay post it and make sure that we get that online for you guys to have as a reference also. It's just kind of peace of mind. What colors can you get? And again, let me scoot this over. And you can see there are a lot of choices here. No, it's not every single color that we want, but there's light greens and dark greens. Again, we've got the primary colors. Score a little black, score a little white. You can go darker, you can go lighter. If it's too orange and you want a little more red, you know, it makes sense. You kind of have to go back to elementary school when they, you know, yellow, red, and blue make every color under the sun, which is true. And then you can create lights and darks by adding white and black. You need to keep this very, very simple and not let it frustrate you. And that's what I'm hearing a lot of, is that people are getting frustrated because the colors that they're using are not available. But there are options. And you think about it, if you've been painting very long, I started, 30 some years ago, and deco art didn't have that many colors. So you have to admit we're pretty spoiled with what we do have available. And that's a good thing. We like to be spoiled. But on the other hand, don't let it frustrate you when those choices are, limited, because we are decorative painters, and either we use something we do have or something we can recreate. And I always say, you never know, the colors you come up with, you might like those even better. And on this little snowman guy, I would have never used these colors. However, I kind of think I like them better than the colors I would have used. It's a totally different look, but it's a good thing. So we need to keep that in mind. I know someone last week had asked about sand gray in particular. And let me go back to my little chart. I did play around with sand gray. I think I can zoom in. And I'll tell you what, I think this is pretty spot on. I used 4 drops of Snow White to 1 drop of slate gray. And it was a really pretty gray, more like a Quaker gray, but that sand gray has a little bit of a earthy tone in it. So I put a half a drop of burnt umber in there, and it was just absolutely perfect. So when you look at your color chart, how do you know what color to squirt in to make it that way? That's where this color chart works. Let's go out just a little bit. That's where the color chart comes handy. It goes from pink to red. Do I have these mixed up perhaps? Okay. Pink to red to oranges. So after you get so far, you're getting out of the pink tints, you're leaning a little bit more toward the oranges. So if you're mixing red and yellow, as you get over on this side, you need a little more yellow to get that way. If you're going toward the pinks, you let up on that yellow and you go more with the red and the whites to get those tones. Red and yellow kind of make a flesh tone. Orange, if you put white in it. If you look at your color chart, oh, it doesn't do red. Yeah, we can go red and yellow. So you get the orange, but if you would tone it down and you get that dustier look. See how you get the peachy colors as you get lighter. So you have to go back to, I think it's Color Wheel 101 when you put these colors together. Don't let the paint shortage create or slow down your creativity and your paint time. You just may have to rethink it a little bit and look at your colors that you do have available. A little bit of rationing when you squirt them out. Don't squirt out a huge bunch and then have a lot that you waste. Be conservative when you squirt it out because that will help your paints last a little bit longer. Make sure when you squirt them out, you snap that lid shut so they don't dry out because they get those thick parts in there. That's from having the lids opening and letting them air dry a little bit too long. So there are things you can do to help reserve or ration out what you do have. I think another great chart that Deco Art has is the opacity chart. And what this does, it tells you if the paints are opaque, transparent, or semi-opaque. And I have a little thing. If you want to get them a little bit more on the transparent side, squirt a little glazing medium in there, and that helps it to become a little more translucent. So not only do we have the option of creating whatever colors we want, we also have an option of recreating the opacity that they create. And if you don't like the fact that they're a little bit transparent, you don't even have to go there with the mixing. If you do like that characteristic on your paint, again, put a little glazing medium in there, and that will allow you to use the paints in a whole different way. And this is an excellent tip also when you are shading or highlighting something and you just want to give that little pop of extra color to it, and you don't want a heavy paint over it. Put a little glazing medium in there. When you float it on, you'll just get a soft glow of color. It doesn't have to be a heavy color. And the other chart, and I think Deco Art does have, here it is. They do have on their website the retired colors, and they do have the mixing recipes to recreate these colors that are retired. Again, Deco Art's website is just really packed with a lot of useful information between what they offer as reference and what we know as painters. This is not a big issue. We can deal with this. We got this, right? Not a problem.
Someone asked if you would do chartreuse yellow.
Chartreuse yellow. Well, they do have citron. Let me look at chartreuse. That's a color I don't use, so let me take a peek at it. Oh, I would just take a little bit of that citron green And probably, they do have, move my tote over here. They have several yellows. And because we want this to be very bright, oops. Do we have citron green back there, Lindsay?
On the rack?
Uh-huh. I'm gonna see if we have one, because it's so much easier if you have the actual color that you can recreate this. First thing I would do is find citron green on the chart, and I think that's one of the brand new colors. And I don't have my decal art book here. I'm thinking it would be right in between the yellow green, or the olive green, and the, oh, here it is.
We don't have citron.
Okay, so citron green is a lot more yellow than the chartreuse, so I'll change my mindset.
This is chartreuse. Margarita's really close too.
Chartreuse?
That's chartreuse.
Okay, this is chartreuse right here. And citron. Okay, so get my colors certain around here. I like to use a palette knife because that gives me, let me shake this up a little bit. Gives me a little bit of a stronger tool to work with. Okay, so that is, let me move this out a little bit. This is chartreuse yellow. And my memory is really, really short. You could have picked something that was easier to spell. Okay, so we have chartreuse yellow there. Now when I put this citron green on my palette, it is a lot more green than that, which it should be. It says chartreuse yellow. It should be brighter. So I'm gonna squirt a little bit of the lemon yellow in there. And I usually start with them just a little bit apart from each other. I like working on the gray palette because you get more of a true difference of color. And I'm gonna put a little bit of that chartreuse on here as well. Oh my goodness, that's almost perfect. So I know if I mix chartreuse, lemon yellow, and citron, which are two colors that are available, it's almost identical. And this is a little green, so I would say probably, let me try it one more time. 1 spot of lemon and 1 spot of citron. And that's about how fussy I want to be, just a dot of each. Oh my gosh, that's almost perfect. I love it when it's that easy. And I put those on there and you can hardly tell the difference. So I'll put 1 citron, 1 lemon. Is that citron green? And it comes up just about spot on. So this is going to throw my theory off. The citron is a little bit more green than the chartreuse, and it doesn't look like that on the chart. But if you have some on hand, you'll be able to compare and see that. Now I wonder what would happen if I put a little bit of primary yellow with the citron. And the reason this will make a difference, and can you see how much more yellow this is than the lemon yellow? So I'm thinking this color mix is gonna be more orangey. Yeah. This is a really pretty color, but it's not chartreuse. Can you see the difference in the colors just by using a different yellow? So those are the things you have to play around with. Normally I would go with the primary colors to mix them because they are more of a pure pigment. When you start getting into the bottled colors, then you start getting into their mixes. So you're working with a mix to create a mix. And that's when it gets a little, can throw you off as opposed to working with the pure colors. Any other colors?
Camel.
Camel, I like camel.
That second one you made was almost margarita.
Yeah, Lindsay was saying this one looked like margarita. I'll go out just a touch so I have a little more room here. Camel, I'm thinking if I put antique gold and just lightened it up, I'm gonna go back to my chart. Camel's here, antique gold's here. They're just pretty close neighbors. No, I wouldn't want to use antique gold in lieu of the camel. But I'm thinking that we'll try one to one on that. And that's almost a perfect mix. That looks just like camel. So camel would be, and I'm just gonna put that over here. And I can put camel and antique gold. One, and Snow White. That's an easy mix. You love it when you can just put two colors together and bingo, you've got a very close match. This one I wouldn't be afraid to mix a lot of, or, you know, mix often because it's such an easy one-to-one combination. Yeah, camel is a good color to use. And that one I do use a lot. I like the earthier colors, which these are kind of the colors that DecoArt has selected are more of the vibrant colors, but we can tone them down easily. Any other colors?
There was a question,
Okay.
completely unrelated, but someone wanted to know how you come up with your designs. What is your process?
My process for designs. Oh, my head's a scary place.
This is, do you sketch first? Do you start painting it? Do you paint once, twice to tweak some things? She would love for you to walk through your process.
Okay, when I design, I have a lot of sketchbooks. So usually when I'm painting something, I might get an idea for something else. I kind of sketch it out. And then when I'm looking for, I need to come up with a new design, I'll go through my sketchbooks and something will trigger my imagination and I'll take that sketch and play around with it to get what I want. So I love color. I love playing with color. A lot of times I'll get an idea for a design just from a color combination that has nothing to do with anything, but two colors that come together that are just beautiful. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, I'd love to take that into a design. So, you know, even pretty scarves or clothing. I don't go shopping anymore, so that's kind of narrowed down a little bit. But I have sketchbooks. I'll never live long enough to create all the designs in my sketchbook. So I'm, and you know, even some of the old designs you can recreate just by, we all get better as time goes on. So a lot of the things I did in the past, just shaking up the color or doing something exciting with the background brings in a whole new fresh look. So just rethinking and keep that in mind when you're looking at patterns that you have on hand, those ones that you were gonna do 20 years ago you never got around to and now they're dated. Just, you know, freshen them up with color and background, exciting background. And it'd be totally amazing what ends up on your surface when you do something like that. Very exciting. I do have a Zoom class coming up December 5th, and I was hoping to have it finished today, but it's kind of crazy over the weekend, a lot of things going on. So I should be posting that shortly. It's going to be December 5th, I think from 12 to 4. And it's going to be using the DecoArt Prime Picks, and I'm super excited because the colors are amazing, totally different. It's so if you don't have paint, Cupboard Distributing, cdwood.com. Let me punch that up right there. We do have all the paints here that are available, brushes, paints, everything you need. So, you know, you got your lifeline to us. You'll be in good shape. We'll take good care of you. Also, Christmas Design Club 2021 just opened up for registration last week, so you can join that.
Someone had asked about posting your mixing charts. I told them we would do it tomorrow. Post those two
Okay.
charts online.
I'm hoping, yeah, I can post my mixing charts online, but also I'm hoping to have the DecoArt availability list as well. And as you're playing around with mixing colors, and you put some colors together, if it's not the color you're looking for, take a look at it. It might be another color that you'll need later. So the one thing you need to keep in mind when you're mixing to create colors is a dot of this and a dot of that. And that way you come up with that 1-to-1 color combination or 2-to-1. Don't squirt a whole bunch out and then try to remember what you put together, because it gets, believe me, you grab a little touch of this and a little touch of that, and pretty soon you've forgotten how many touches of the first color you put in there. So you can kind of become very complicated very easy. So keep it simple, a dot, a dot, a dot, and then your palette knife to pull it together is a super way to do that. It just keeps everything a little more clean and precise. And then when you do your mixing on your color chart, it's a real simple process to add those that information in there so that it makes sense to you next time you get ready to recreate that color. Okay, anything else?
Marianne says hi.
Hi, Marianne. I know everybody's keeping busy. I love seeing all the projects that you all are posting, and it's great. It's just been a crazy year, but it's great that we do have this time, and isn't it wonderful that we have this hobby that can fill our time, and it offers so much mental wellness, and that's what DecoArt was saying. You know, they're not considered an essential business, but what would we do if we couldn't paint? So yeah, we can argue with that, because painting is to us very essential. And if you're a painter, you understand that 100%. It just provides so much fulfillment. And we're just very blessed to be able to have this hobby or craft that we can use to create and make our life a little bit fuller. So, yes.
What color is comparable to vintage pink?
Vintage pink, that's kind of a dusty pink, and I would take one of the brighter pinks and probably squirt a little bit of, I don't know. I probably have to play around with that. I'm thinking if you squirt a little bit of a gray in there, that's going to tone it down without taking away that. You need to get that brightness toned down. If you put black in it, it's going to turn it icky. So maybe even just a little bit of maybe like a slate gray or a zinc. I can put that on I'll put that on my list and play around with it.
Because we don't even have vintage pink here to.
Yeah, I've got vintage pink at home. I'll post that one as well. I'll play around with that one. So if you have colors that you're curious about, put them on if I can. I'll come up with a combination. I do need to get a couple projects finished, so I can't do it overnight, but
You can put them on Facebook or email them to me or
okay,
something.
put
I'll
them
make
on
a list.
Facebook or email Lindsay, info@cdwood.com. She'll make sure I get it. She keeps me on the ball. She keeps me organized, answers all the questions you guys are sending, so we can get that information posted. For fun, tomorrow we are doing a live sale on Facebook at 1 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's one, yeah.
At 1 o'clock. So if you've not joined our live sale, we do have amazing discounts, and it's a fun time. It's usually just lasts about an hour, and we just have specials on whatever we have for that hour, and you decide whether or not you want to buy it and let us know. So it's just super simple, super fun, and great savings. So you don't want to miss out on that. Mark your calendars, December 5th, my Zoom class, and hopefully I'll get that posted in the next couple of days. Christmas Design Club 2021's coming up. If you need paints, brushes, or any painting supplies, CD Wood right over here at the bottom. Trying to find where to point.
Mary Ann wants to know who's your favorite customer.
Mary Ann's my favorite customer.
She's mine. She makes cream puffs.
No. We have
Tons of favorites.
tons of favorite customers. You know, I'd say almost every one of our decorative painters are wonderful people, and what better thing to do than to be able to paint with people that love this as much as we do. So,
Becky wants to know about light cinnamon. Did you do light cinnamon?
light
last week?
cinnamon is really, really close to milk chocolate, and I'm telling you, if you use milk chocolate, you won't be disappointed. So, give milk chocolate a shot, because that is an available color, and to try to mix something close to light cinnamon, to me, just seems like not necessary. So I would just stick with milk chocolate. Nobody's gonna know. It's just that close. And a lot of the colors are very close on the Deco Art line, you know, just a shade difference. But we are spoiled. We need those colors. But during this time, we can adapt and we can adjust. So
Someone else said, I attempt to keep Jen in line.
Oh.
That's an impossible job.
yeah, if you're trying to attempt to keep Jen in line, good luck.
She's not out here, so we can say that.
Yeah, she's not out here. Yeah, we can talk about her when she's not here. So I think that's about it. Any more questions? Okay, well, I thank you so much for joining us today. And again, don't let the paint shortage frustrate you or discourage you from painting. We can use the next closest color. That would be my first suggestion, the easiest way. And if you need to recreate that color, play around with some different color combinations to see if you can come close. Close will be great. It doesn't have to be exact. And if you can't even get close, try something a little different. Think outside the box. You might even like it a little bit better. And there's been many times when if I'm out of one color and I think, oh, well, what about, it's just like this little snowman guy. Oh my gosh, I love him, and I would not have used these colors. So it sometimes is not a bad thing when you're forced to get outside of your comfort zone and your go-to colors and play with something new, because you might surprise yourself. You might even like it better. So keep that in mind as well. So I have some fun, interesting, and different ideas for Create with Chris. We're going to start a new little series, and Lindsay and I were talking about it. So should we tell them?
Sure, why not?
Okay. We've had a lot of requests of like painting 101 kind of tips and techniques. So I think what we're going to do is just kind of touch on some of the things that we do all the time, like shading, and some people really struggle. So we're going to focus on different aspects of painting to help maybe simplify, or if you're struggling with a technique, maybe we can approach it from a different angle to make it a little bit easier. We do this for fun, and so I'm thinking if it's something that you struggle with, there has to be a better way. And so I'll share some of my little tips and tricks and techniques to help make your painting life easier, and hopefully make it work well for you.
We'll touch on brush care, right?
Brush care, things, just basic painting skills to make your tools last longer, what you need, what you don't need, what is helpful, how to take care of things, different techniques. So if you have a request, post it, and I'll see if we can touch on that as well. Okay, if there's anything else?
Oh, Marianne's got loading paint and liners. We can touch on that.
Oh yeah, loading paint and liners. I got that down, so yeah. We can
got you,
touch on
Marianne.
that. No worries, Marianne. We got you covered here. So, okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Create with Chris.